Call the meeting to order. I'd like to have approval of the minutes, a motion for that. Linda, a second. Sharon, is there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to the reports. Tri-County Regional Planning Commission minutes, they were in your packet. Is there anybody here that wants to, got any questions on that? Okay. Unsafe structures. Since we got a few new ones and I haven't been on this committee for a few years, I'm going to have Kathy just give a brief summary of the unsafe structures so we all know what's going on in that. Kathy?
Yes, thank you. Yes, in your packet you'll see the report entitled Unsafe Structures or Unfit for Human Occupancy. This is a list of properties that are somewhere in our process where they are unsafe, obviously. There are various processes that they go through before they get to this point. Initially, we get the complaint, we send out a 30-day letter, and we hope for some type of response from them. Many people will apply for their own demolition permit if it can't be repaired, and those would be listed here also with a notation that they have applied for a permit, or have been issued a permit, and we're waiting until the violation is corrected to take it off the list. Others have already gone through the entire process, and we are ready to move those forward for demolition upon receiving another grant to do so. We just finished up actually in December of last year with a grant where we demolished 7 structures. We have a running list of those that we'd like to move forward with the next cycle, SCP grant it's called. We're hoping that that grant becomes available this month or next month, and that we can then move forward on getting these other structures demolished. The second section of that is called cases in the hearing officer process. Those cases have received the 30-day violation letter. They did not make their corrections. We send it to the hearing officer first, and the hearing officer tries to work with them to, again, move forward. She has the ability to set fines and fees, which can help with their decision. If not, then again, we will eventually take it to the state's attorney's office to try to get a demolition order and a grant to have those structures removed.
Okay, now on the ones that we have get a grant to demolish the property, then we have a lien on the property?
Yes, we do then put a lien on the property, and we did that with the last 7 structures that we demolished last year.
Okay, so if they don't pay us back, then before the property can be used for anything, they either have to pay us or sell it, and we get first. Do we ever get paid back? Has that ever happened, I guess?
It has happened. It usually happens when the property changes hands.
Are there any other questions for Kathy on the unsafe structures?
I'd have one. On the one property, what happens if the person has died and all that on one of these structures you're saying you're going to put a lien against? Who's going to pay for it?
If it's already been demolished, then
No, it hasn't been demolished yet. I saw when I was plowing snow 3 weeks ago, I saw your sign in the front yard. It's on Lanes Lane in Edwards.
Okay.
And that person has been dead for like 2 years.
Right. So we still post the property. We still send the letters to the last owner of record. Hopefully it goes to whoever's handling their estates. Eventually, if it gets to the point where we're going to demolish it, posting is actual verification that we've noticed the property. And that's something we work with the state's attorney's office on, and that's something they eventually take to the judge.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Sharon?
More of a comment. I guess I just want the public to know that quarterly, myself, along with the Limestone Township Supervisor, the Road Commissioner, the Sheriff, the Attorney for Limestone Township, along with the staff, Kathy's staff and herself, we meet quarterly to talk about these properties that are problem properties, need to be demolished, or there's complaints against the property owners. And I just want to publicly thank Kathy and everybody that's involved with this because it's really, I think, done a lot of good work in the 61605 zip code.
Thank you. Okay, next on the reports, we have the development summary. Kathy, is that something that you'd be speaking on?
Sure.
Okay.
The development summary is something that Chairman Dillon actually asked us to put together a few years ago. It lists the non-residential building permits we've issued for the past month. So those would be commercial industrial permits, either alterations or new construction, and also new residential construction. We list what type of project it is, as well as the location and then the value of the property. The valuation is something that the petitioner or the applicant actually provides to us as part of their application. So it's just to give you an idea of the major projects that are running through our department. We issue 1,000 permits per year, more or less, including all the smaller projects and mechanical permits, et cetera. So these are just the new or renovations for commercial and new residential.
Do we have any questions for Kathy on that? Okay, we'll keep, we'll file and report these, file these reports, and we'll move on. Next, we have zoning cases. The first one is ZBA 2022-051, petition of David and Hannah Dutton. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Eden, a second. Linda? Kathy?
This is a special use required when a proposed land split does not meet the 25-acre minimum lot size requirement in the A2 agricultural district. The petitioners are proposing to split approximately 13.5 acres from a 34.07-acre parcel. They intend to keep the land in use as a farm or conservation reserve land until they build a house at some point in the future. There were no consents or objections on file. The parcel is located at Northampton Road and North Blue Ridge Road in Halleck Township. The parcel currently consists of field and row crop production as well as timberland. Adjacent parcels to the north, it's zoned rural residential, and there are 2 single-family dwellings. To the east is zoned R2 medium-density residential. All other surrounding parcels are zoned A2 agriculture. Surrounding land uses include single-family dwellings, ag buildings, a Halleck Township Road District building, pasture, and timber. The 102-lot Fawn Hills subdivision, which is currently zoned R1 low-density residential, is located approximately half a mile to the northeast of the subject parcel, and the city of Chillicothe is located approximately a half a mile to the southeast of the subject parcel. So the request is consistent with the single-family residential uses in the surrounding area. There was a LISA conducted on the subject parcel. The overall LISA score was 197.6 out of 300, which is a low rating for agricultural protection. The petitioners state that the proposed 13.5-acre tract would utilize a private well and a private septic system. The petitioner did submit a well construction report for the proposed tract, which shows the new well produces 30 gallons per minute at a pumping level of 91 feet. This exceeds the 3-gallon per minute requirement of the county. The petitioners have also submitted soil tests showing the viability of a future septic system. At the time of the Health Department's review, there were no conditions that would cause the department to recommend denial. The subject parcel has frontage on Northampton Road, which is a Halleck Township road, and North Blue Ridge Road, which is a county non-primary highway. Once split, the 13.5-acre tract would only have frontage on North Blue Ridge Road. The addition of 1 single-family residential dwelling at some point in the future would have minimal traffic impact. The County Highway Department had no objections, and we had no comments from the Road Commissioner. The future land use form map in the Peoria County Comp Land Use Plan designates this area as agriculture and environmental corridor. The plan states that given that these areas are less agriculturally productive than the agricultural preservation land use form, there is more allowance for growth and development. The plan states that residential uses should reflect the agricultural nature of the area by locating on large lots, and it also recommends minimum lot size in the environmental corridor to be 5 acres. The proposal to split 13.5 acre meets the requirements of the comp plan. This request is also consistent with the Peoria County Housing Growth Strategy of providing a variety of choices in housing types to meet the needs of the population. Staff recommended approval with one restriction. The restriction is actually a requirement of the ordinance, but we list it as a restriction just so that all parties are aware. Parcels created by the approval of the special use may not be divided again, even if subsequently combined with other parcels, unless a rezoning is granted by the county board or unless each lot to be created meets the 25-acre minimum lot size in the A2 zoning district. The zoning board also recommended approval unanimously with the same restriction.
Okay, do we have any questions for Kathy on this first zoning case? Terry?
I don't specifically have a question. I have comment about it. It is not in my district, but it is very nearby and an area that I've spent a lot of time both working and traveling through. I can vouch to the other board members here that are from distances much further from that area. This is in an area that is divided into small parcel estate homes. It's a logical and probably highest and best use of this particular land, and I would encourage you to support this.
Thank you, Terry. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, the second zoning case we have is ZBA 2022-048, petition of Justin Molly. Kathy? Oh, excuse me. I need a motion put on the floor. Eden, a second. Linda, thank you. Now, Kathy?
Yes, this is a rezoning request from A2 agricultural use to RR rural residential. The petitioner is proposing to rezone 6.189 acres in order to combine it with a property to the east. The subject property is located off West Tuscarora Road in Hollis Township. The 6.189 acres is currently part of an existing 33.173 acre tract. The approximate 6 acre subject tract includes timber and ag land. The subject tract will be combined with a 5 acre parcel to the east that does have a dwelling unit and will not be used as a separate building parcel. According to the petition, the adjacent property owner to the east is looking to increase the size of their property and would use the property for personal recreation. Parcels with different zoning classifications cannot be combined. Therefore, because these two are zoned separately, ag and rural residential, they need the rezoning to RR to be able to combine those properties. Zoning to the north of the subject tract is R1 low density residential. To the south and east is RR rural residential, and west of the subject tract is A2 agriculture. The county board did approve a previous rezoning case in 1998, which rezoned 105 acres adjacent to the south of this property from ag to rural residential. Therefore, this rezoning request is consistent with the surrounding area. Land use to the north and east of the subject tract are single-family dwellings. To the west is residence, timber, and agricultural land, and to the south is agriculture. There are many residential lots ranging from 1/4 to 7 acres in size within a half a mile. Portions of this tract are located within a floodplain. Development in a floodplain is subject to the county regulations, which could make development here very restrictive. However, there are no intentions of developing on this land. It won't be a separate building parcel. A LISA was conducted on the subject parcel. The overall LISA score did have a low rating for agriculture protection. The health department had no objections at this time. The subject parcel has road frontage along West Tuscarora Road. One additional, really isn't even an additional lot. They're combining it with the other. So it will have no impact on the traffic. And the highway department had no objection to the request. This request is consistent with our county comprehensive land use plan that designates the area as urban agriculture and environmental corridor. The subject parcel will only be used for personal recreation, which is compatible with the environmental corridor land use. Staff recommended approval. The zoning board recommended approval as well, 6-0. There was one objection on this case. The objector was concerned about the condition of the property that this one will be connected to. To the east, they didn't think they cared for their property very well, and they were concerned that this 5 acres would also then not be cared for well. There was also one consent, which was the adjacent property owner's daughter.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions on this one for Kathy? I think this one's kind of similar to what you were talking about, Terry, in your area. This is down in my neck of the woods, and there are some farmettes and subdivisions all around it, so it's, like Kathy said, pretty typical of what's going on in that area. No questions, we'll call the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. Okay, the third zoning case is ZBA 2022-052, petition of Michael J. Honiger, special use. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Sharon, a second? Linda, thank you. Okay, Kathy?
So this case and the next two are all part of the same request. There is a existing property, which you may be aware of, called Christ Alive on Route 150 as you're heading west into Kickapoo. The church is, has a parsonage on the land, and they'd like to divest themselves of that parsonage, sell it, which would require land division. And then they also have a couple acres of farmland behind the church that they would like to sell to that adjacent property owner. So each of, unfortunately, it required 3 cases to get to where they want to be, so we'll go through each of those. There is one consent on this request, which is from Shane Land, LLC. They are the adjacent property owner on 3 sides. We had no objections. The subject parcel, as I said, was located on Kickapoo Road, in Kickapoo Township on Route 150, approximately 850 feet east of the unincorporated area of Kickapoo. Because this property is currently zoned A2, a LISA was conducted on the subject parcel. This did have a low rating for agricultural protection. This special use is to allow for a place of worship in the RR Rural Residential Zoning District. The next case is to change the zoning from ag to rural residential, which they will need to do to combine the properties. If that happens, then they also need a special use to allow the church in an RR zoning district, so it will not be non-compliant. The petition states that the subject parcel is served by its own private well and septic system. A well test and soil borings were provided with the special use application. A shared well serves both the Christ Alive Fellowship and the rental home that is currently on the property. It produces 17 gallons per minute, which exceeds our ordinance requirement of 3 gallons per minute. The church and the dwelling unit will enter into a shared well agreement during the subdivision process. They also provided 3 soil borings. The health department did not comment on this case, but they did comment on the next rezoning case that they had no objections. There will be no new access points here. They will continue to use a shared drive for both the church and the home, and use an existing drive back to the home behind the church that will eventually get the 2 acres of land. The comprehensive land use plan designates this area as agriculture. The agricultural land use form does encourage other types of development, such as places of worship in areas that are low producing agricultural land. This did have a low LISA rating, so it is a low rated agricultural protection value. Staff recommended approval with the restriction that the approval of this special use is subject to the approval of the next rezoning case as well. And the zoning board recommended approval unanimously with the same restriction.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions on this one?
I will be abstaining from this since I know the parties involved in this, being road commissioner.
Okay. Terry?
My question, and it may not be appropriate for you, Kathy, but if anyone might be able to answer this, based on the fact that this is a church, what is the current tax status of this property, and will that change with the rezoning and subsequent change of ownership?
It would be a not-for-profit. Jenny, do you know if they're taxed at all?
I assume not, but I can look real quick on the tax records and let you know.
Okay.
Kathy, you said that they're sharing the well. Are they also sharing the same septic system?
No, they did submit 3 soil borings for analysis for a separate septic system.
Okay, so who will get the new one, the church or the house?
I believe it's the house, and that will be reviewed as part of the subdivision review by the health department if these cases are approved.
I knew you probably could share the well, but the septic system, I wasn't sure if that one was going the same way. Are there any other questions? Terry, do you want to have yours answered before we vote, or?
No,
Okay,
no, I'm fine to vote without that information, but I would like it longer term.
okay.
Mr. Rowland, I just looked up, the first parcel is showing as not being taxed because it's owned by Christ Alive. But are there 3 parcels, Kathy?
Currently, there's 2. For this case, there's only 1. It's only about the church, a special use for the church. The next
That
case is the rezoning case, which also includes Mr. Sean Donahue's home, which is behind this property.
So this current parcel is not being taxed since it's owned by the church.
But
and
it's
when
safe-
it changes hands to a portion of it will go to the adjacent landowner, then it will be taxed.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
Any other questions before we vote? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And Mr. Kelch is abstaining. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. The last zoning case we have here is ZBA 2022-047, petition of Michael J. Honiger. It's rezoning. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Matt, second? Danny, thank you. Kathy?
This is a rezoning request from A2 agriculture to RR residential. Petitioner is proposing to rezone parcels of 5.17 acres and 6.109 acres in order to reconfigure those 2 boundaries, 2 existing parcels into the 3 proposed tracts that we previously discussed. There would be a 2.17 acre tract, which will go with the existing church, a 1 acre tract for the single family home that's previously a parsonage, and an 8.109 acre tract will be the result of adding those 2 acres to the adjacent parcel. Again, there was 1 consent and no objections for this case. That was Shane Land, the adjacent property owners. The rest of the information is the same as the last case. This parcel does contain a 12,000 square foot church and a 2,000 square foot dwelling unit, which is that parsonage. The Sean Donahue property, which is the adjacent property, which will be purchasing the 2 acres of farmland, contains a 3,300 square foot dwelling unit and a 3,300 square foot pole barn. There will be no farmland taken out of production. He will continue to use that 2 acres as farmland. This lease did have a low rating for agricultural protection, and the City County Health Department had no objection to this request. Staff recommended approval as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions on this case? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I will have to abstain.
Okay, thanks, Danny. Opposed, same sign. Yeah, we've passed unanimously with Mr. Kelch abstaining. Okay, next we have a subdivision waiver. It's WAV-2022-0004, petition of Michael J. Honiger. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Thank you, Eden. Second, Sharon. Okay, Kathy.
This is the water waiver that was mentioned as part of this case. Because they need to split off the 1 acre lot with the parsonage, that is considered a minor subdivision. Our ordinance requires that a minor subdivision have public water if available. Water here is over 2 miles away, but if there is no water available, they need to apply for a waiver from the public water requirements. As part of that, they do submit the well report. In this case, it produced 17 gallons per minute, which exceeds the 3 mile requirement, or 3 gallons per minute, thank you, requirement of our ordinance. The County Health Department had no objections for this, and staff recommended approval.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions on this one? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Again,
opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I will have to abstain.
Okay. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried unanimously with Mr. Kelch abstaining. Okay, moving on, we have two resolutions. The first one's appropriation of FY 2022 grant funding. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Mr. Kelch, Eden, second, thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, quick costume change here. So the FY22 revenues and expenditures are related to the Strong Communities Program. This is in Fund 63, which is the Planning and Zoning Grant Fund. Kathy referenced the unsafe structures report and how we've utilized grants in the past and present and hopefully in the future to demolish unsafe structures. We originally got this grant in 2020. Thought we were going to accomplish half of it in 21 and half of it in 22. We ended up finishing everything in December of 22. The way that it was budgeted, we had $40,000 in 21, $40,000 in 22. Because we incurred all of those expenses in 22, we are asking for an appropriation of $40,000 into our FY22 revenues and expenditures so that we can pay the outstanding bill that we have to GIMAX Corporation, who did a fantastic job with all of our demolition work this last year.
Do we have any questions for Andrew on that? Yes, Mr. Kelch, Danny did first, and Eden did the second. Okay, all in favor? Anybody need to abstain on this one? All right. We don't have that happen that often, Dan. Okay, everybody in favor of it, motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. Second resolution, appropriation FY 2023 grant funding. Andrew?
All right, this is also from funds.
We got to get a motion first. A motion, put that on the floor. Linda, second. Sharon? Now, Ed.
Thank you. This is also part of Fund 63, the Planning and Zoning Grant Fund. It covers a couple of different programs. Back in 2013, the county received a grant award from FEMA and the Illinois Emergency Management Agency for the demolition of flood-impacted structures. We finished that project several years ago. However, we have not received all of the funding from the state yet. So we continue to ask for appropriations into our fiscal year revenues and expenditures so that at such time when we do receive those funds, we are able to move them where they need to go accordingly. The good news is that it's all Peoria County funding due to either the recorder of deeds or county clerk, and then as well as some administrative funding. So we have paid off all of our contractors. We don't have any debt outside of essentially what's owed to various departments here for their participation in the program. The second component of this is for the administrative funding for the aforementioned Strong Communities Program grant. Once we finalize all that billing and do our closeout paperwork, we will be able to receive some administrative funding, so that is incorporated into this particular resolution.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions for Andrew on this? So basically, the county's already paid everything. What fund will this money, when it comes back to, that be going back into your budget? Did it come out of your budget? Did that come out of the general fund to pay it until we get reimbursed?
We have several different funds that it's going to kind of come in and out of. Some of the funding will go into the general fund. Some of it will be reimbursed back into Fund 63, the Planning and Zoning Grant Fund. Rachel Parker's staff, we have an outstanding bill to pay down in that office for some of the recordings that were done. We have some administrative funds that will go back into some of the salary and personnel line items. So I think if you look at the resolution, there's about 7 line items on there. So it'll move around quite a bit. Luckily, we've teamed with the finance department to make sure we know where all of that comes and goes from.
Wonderful. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. Next item is committee action, review of executive session minutes. Jenny, is that you? Okay, I'll turn it over to you. Do we need a motion to bring this up? Okay, motion to bring this on the floor? Come on. Eden, okay, Jimmy, thank you. We'll get done quicker with the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It remains the recommendation of the State's Attorney's Office that all previously held minutes continue to be held because the need for confidentiality still exists, and to destroy executive session audio recordings that are more than 2 years old, except for those involved in pending litigation.
Any questions for Jenny? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Okay, we're up to miscellaneous. Oh, Sharon, you've got something?
Yeah.
Right.
I noticed we talk a lot about the comprehensive land use plan, so while we were meeting, I went and looked. The last time that was updated was August of 2009. I'm just curious, is there any plans, Scott or Kathy, to update that, or?
Great question, Ms. Williams. I think later this month in February, the board's going to be going through strategic planning. If that becomes a priority out of the strategic planning process, then we will follow through with that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for miscellaneous? If not, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.